What's up, A to Z Sports Live on this Thursday, day 2 out here at Titans training camp practice. And we were out here for day 1 practice yesterday, so we got some training camp observations here as we get ready to go back into St. Thomas Sports Park for practice number 2. So thanks to everybody for being patient. Had a little Wi-Fi connectivity issues here on the concrete slab trying to get going today. Sam smiles and shakes his head, dealing with them hotspot problems, but going to have a good conversation today. Several training camp observations we'll get to off the top of the show, and then we'll dive into a couple other conversations about Jamal Adams and Tandre Sweat, who both made their Titans training camp debuts yesterday on the practice field. So we'll go through those. Just a little update on this. We are going to try to be faster and on time with our show moving forward when we're out here at Titans training camp. Practice starts at 9 o'clock today, which means we've got about 35 minutes to knock out this show, and I think we can do it. I think we can have a super fast show. IR, yes, this is a hoodie, not a turtleneck, because you got to protect the neck out here when the sun comes out later on in camp with the long sleeves on for me today. So, Sam, people got stuff to do before we officially get rolling here, so tell the people what they got.
All right. Hey, before we get going today, make sure you go ahead and share the show. That means if you're watching on Facebook, hit the share button in the bottom right corner. If you're watching on YouTube, take that YouTube link, send it in a group chat, send it to a friend, find a Titans fan in your life and let them know training camp is underway. And for all of the updates, you need to check out A to Z Sports. If you guys were on A to Z Sports on X, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it was, if you were watching our content yesterday, you know that we've got the best training camp coverage, that we've got phones, ears, eyes in all different directions, making sure you know what's happening with your Titans. So keep it locked into A to Z Sports. Share the show this morning for our insight and analysis, and make sure you let the people know to like before we kick things off here on a, what day is it? Thursday morning? Thursday morning. Austin.
This is Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. It's hard to keep track of sometimes during camp, but let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for A to Z Sports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content like we mentioned yesterday. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process, WilsonCountyHyundai.com, or in Lebanon, the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, and they can help you out by getting a quote today using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. Bork says Austin's dressed for the sun, not for the cold. Y'all need to get outdoors more. Yeah, yesterday Sam was in the long sleeves. Today I'm in the long sleeves and the hood because you got to make sure you're protected from the sun. As the sun sneaky got some yesterday when we thought there might be rain, but the rain held off. It looks like the weather going to continue to be great here for Titans training camp, Sam. So how we're going to go today's show, we'll go through some Titans training camp observations. We'll have a quick discussion about the usage that we saw from Jamal Adams in his first time on the practice field with the Titans. And then we'll dive into some Tandre Sweat drama on social media with some Titans fans. And Sam, you spent a lot of time watching Tandre Sweat yesterday and also talking with Tandre Sweat yesterday. So do all of that, starting with our training camp observations. But first, our training camp sponsor for all of our coverage this month is our new friends at Smoky Mountain Tops. If you're thinking about updating your kitchen or bath countertops, call the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. Family owned and operated for 30 years across the state. They have locations in both Nashville and in Knoxville, and you've seen their work at Bridgestone Arena and in Neyland Stadium. Smoky Mountain Tops would love to have your business with their proud to offer their luxurious Handstone, Hyundai, and LNC Opimio quartz collection, as seen in their Nashville and Knoxville studios. Handstone Quartz is known for the quality and exceptional design, have over 50 colors and patterns to draw inspiration from. So if you want new countertops, bath, in your kitchen, whatever you got, Smoky Mountain Tops is your place in Nashville or Knoxville. You can call them 615-922-6539 or hit up Christy. Her email is right there on the graphic. Christy says, hey, email me directly. Tell them A to Z Sports sent you, SmokyMountainTops.com. So, Sam, let's start us off with a little bit of training camp observations. And I think the main observation that I had yesterday on practice number one is that the new look offensive line very much looked like they were in practice number one, as several times Titans blitzing safeties and linebackers were able to get in for tackles for loss. Some players off the edge were really strong when it comes to getting in the backfield and disrupting a lot of the run game yesterday, but also getting some pressure on Will Levis. So, Sam, what's your thoughts on the leaky offensive line to start training camp yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question it was a tough day for the Titans offense and tough day for the Titans offensive line. Now, of course, Austin, this is practice day one. Nothing is supposed to look perfect, and you would assume that an offensive line that requires so much coordination between one another, a new offense and a completely new scheme would look a little bit more rusty than a defense whose job is go get the football, right? So it's not a huge shock that I would say the defense won day one of training camp, but it was not a good day for the offensive line. Like you said, maybe double-digit run plays stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. And now they're not making the tackle, so to speak, but you've got players in the backfield consistently making plays, holding their hand up after they, get a sack or a TFL in some of these team drills. I think, there was some problems. Like Will Levis threw a couple passes that were almost or should have been intercepted as well. Like it was just a little bit off. And so that was my observations on day one. And nobody should panic about that information. We should not overreact to this information. And perhaps it's just a good sign that this defensive front is going to be as good as potentially advertised. But here we are one day through, and I would say, yeah, offensive line still looks like they need training camp to get on the same page.
Without a doubt. And I think one positive that I'm looking at is that I think everybody that follows the Titans saw the tweets that came out of Green Bay of, let's see, that Andre Dillard looks like he is just a turnstile at Packers camp, just like we all saw Arden Key average 5.5 sacks a practice last year on Andre Dillard to his count. But so J.C. Latham and Arden Key in this camp is going to be something to watch, because the knock, if you want to call the weakness of J.C. Latham's game coming out of Alabama, was struggling with the speed rush and overcompensating with the speed rush and then getting beat inside. So I think when you're looking at the matchup for J.C. Latham, who handles everything like a true professional as a day one rookie, I think it's really impressive that J.C. Latham is going to have a chance to approach this and have Arden Key across him to work on what could be his biggest weakness, and that is, working with a speed rusher. And there was a couple times that Arden Key got J.C. Latham yesterday pretty good off the snap. One of them, Arden said, was a sack. Another time, J.C. Latham whiffed on Arden Key and got there for a big stop in the backfield on a run play. But I think that's going to be something to watch, and it's a good matchup and a good thing for the Titans that they have Arden Key going up against J.C. Every day here in practice.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, when you have a rookie like J.C. Latham who has so much physical ability, this training camp period is about working out the kinks and trying to figure out like what are his biggest flaws, areas of weakness that could hurt you in the regular season. And yeah, like you said, the analysis on J.C. Latham is that if he gets his hands on you, he will displace you. Like you do not want to let J.C. Latham get his hands on you, or you're done for as an edge rusher. But if you can speed by him, if you can bend underneath him, you've got a shot to make a play on the quarterback. Those are things that Arden Key does very well. He's got a very quick burst off the edge. He's able to be a successful speed rusher. He's not going to overpower you, but for J.C. Latham to continually get looks in training camp against a very talented, proven third down edge rusher who uses speed and balance as some of his best pass rushing moves, that's only going to be an iron sharpens iron moment for your rookie left tackle. And hopefully once these pads get on, we're really able to see how J.C. Latham and Arden Key stack up against one another in a full practice.
Yeah, without a doubt. There, the next training camp observation is some is operational miscues, but and then the occasional Will Levis flash. Sam, take us through what you took note of with some goofy operations, and then Will Levis making some plays in between that.
Yeah, I mean, there was some, I would say, operational issues just in terms of how this offense like communicated with one another, and then some sloppy execution at times. I think we had Will Levis trip over his own feet and fall into Tony Pollard at one point while he was trying to give him a handoff, slammed into Tony Pollard. It ended up being a running play for no gain or a loss of yards. We had a pitch out to Tony Pollard that Tony Pollard fumbled. There were multiple other fumbles by wide receivers and tight ends in the 7-on-7 period, which just seemed absurd that in 7-on-7 we're getting the ball punched out. But that was the reality. I mean, and there was a low snap to Malik Willis at one point when the third team offense was in there. So these are all some of those day one sort of issues that you kind of just go, man, that's ugly. But hopefully a few more practices and we can iron out some of those issues. I would say it was a sloppy operational day for the Titans offense overall, though, and put them at a disadvantage. Like we talked about the offensive line and how the offensive line struggled, but some of these negative plays started on the snap and at the line of scrimmage with the backfield.
And I will say, like, I think Malik Willis did a good job with the low snap that he got. So credit to Malik. I thought he made a quick, decisive move in picking up that low snap, looking down the field, noticing that he had to kind of do something on his own, and quickly got out of the pocket and ran for probably 15 to 20 yards down the left side. So I think good move by Malik there overall. The things that we saw from the fumbles were confusing to me because I don't know if that's just this is the first time in a while that a defense has been punching at the football and you've been catching footballs and doing drills on air for 2 months. And then, hey, guess what? A defense is coming after you. We saw a big punch. Who was it that punched Tyler Boyd right in the chest, Sam, when we were like, oh, God.
Trey
Avery. Yeah, just bang. Just was going for the football, but just hit Tyler Boyd right in the chest right there. So a couple other training camp observations before we talk some about Jamal Adams. A couple things, no down the field passes. I think they really wanted to focus on getting some underneath timing stuff taken care of and not try to push anything down the field to make sure no hamstring got pulled. Nobody was overextending in that situation. So really a lot of short passes. And then Sam, Ryan Stonehouse back out there punting for the first time. So you got a chance to catch up with Ryan Stonehouse after practice. So kind of take us through what that conversation was and how the Titans punter is feeling after his knee surgery with multiple ligaments torn back in December.
Yeah, I mean, the message from Ryan Stonehouse to me was that he was kind of just as surprised as everybody else that he was already back on the practice field. Ryan Stonehouse said that the timeline for his injury is about 9 to 12 months as far as like a full recovery. You're talking a torn ACL, a torn MCL, and a broken bone all in the same leg. So he's sitting here about 7.5 months removed from his original injury, already back on the practice field punting. He gave a lot of credit to the Titans training staff, said, hey, can't credit them enough or thank them enough for helping me get ready and get back to this point. Said part of the reason he is back in training camp, wanting to make sure he's punting out on the field, is he needs to feel the rush. Was a big thing. The next step in my recovery is feeling the rush and being able to kick while there's people rushing at me. And you can't really replicate that unless you're in a game or in these live training camp practices where you have that opportunity. So that's what Stonehouse is working on right now. He was asked if he needed to punt in an NFL game today. Could he? He said, yeah, I'm sure I'd be capable of punting in a game if I needed to right now. Now, good news is he doesn't have to. And I think over the next month, Stoney's going to get ready for that week 1 game. But right now, all things are tracking for him to be back and available week 1. I don't necessarily know if we'll see him punt in the preseason. I think there's a bit of a risk there that the Titans are going to have to manage about He's not 100%. He's still getting mentally ready. His body's still ailing a little bit. Do you throw him back there in a preseason game with risk of getting him hit, or you just wait to get him there for week 1? I don't know how valuable those reps are going to be, but I think it was an encouraging update in general that Ryan Stonehouse is probably going to be available for the Titans when they go to Chicago.
For sure. And to me, if I would probably have Stonehouse go out there in like maybe the second preseason game and just at least feel that rush for real, once to get the jitters out, maybe punt a couple times, at least go through the pregame warmups in a stadium. I think that's what I would do if I were the coaching staff with Ryan Stonehouse. But yeah, I didn't expect him to be. I thought Ryan Stonehouse would be on PUP right now. And I thought he'd be out. I was saying, hey, post bye week, early bye week in week 5, you come back, maybe you get Stonehouse in for the 5th game of the season. But the fact that he's out here punting on day 1 is pretty impressive, and a credit to him and the training staff and everything and everybody who's helped him with his recovery. So, Sam, let's go ahead and get to Jamal Adams, because there was a lot of questions and interesting thoughts about how the Titans would use new safety Jamal Adams. So we'll play a clip about Jamal Adams talking about his time in Seattle and how it ended and what he's getting ready to do, and really what we're seeing from the Titans on how they're going to maybe use Jamal Adams in this defense. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Maybe you have an unfortunate injury like Ryan Stonehouse did in life. Hopefully not to that severity, because we're not playing football every day. But the Bone and Joint Institute can help you out and get back to that road to recovery, just like they have for me and so many Middle Tennesseans across the area, because the Bone and Joint Institute is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. So whenever you get hurt, that's where to go. All the experts, all the resources right there under one roof in Franklin off Highway Highway 96 and I-65. They've also got clinics and rehab across the Williamson County area as well. So book an appointment today, boneandjointtn.org.
Today's show powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Whatever that first bet wager amount is, if your bet loses, it goes back into your account in the form of a bonus bet for a second chance to win big. It's the best way to do sports gambling when you have 2 chances to hit big. So get with BetMGM and BetMGM.com and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports.
All right, let's hear from Jamal Adams. Teron Davenport asking a question pretty directly about how his time ended with the Seahawks.
How did that outro process work with Seattle? Was there a point, did they ask you to move to a different position?
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. Obviously, it wasn't, what I wanted to do, and I wish those guys nothing but the best. I love all my teammates over there. I can't wait to see them here in a couple weeks. We talk every day. I still keep up with them. Anything they need, they know they can reach out to me and chop it up, coaches included. I still have relationships. Man, that building, it was a special building. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed my time. I did. It was cool.
Is it safe to say there will be a little extra edge during the joint practices?
Oh, it's going to be fun, man. But, the ultimate goal is to compete. Whether who's out there, my teammates, another team, high school team come up here and compete with us, it doesn't matter. We're going to compete.
We're going to compete there. So I did see Teron Davenport asked, hey, did the Seahawks ask you to change a linebacker? Yes, that was the answer there from Jamal Adams. And so, look, I think Jamal Adams is motivated. I think he's reset, humbled, refreshed, and ready to go. And Sam, you and I talked yesterday. He kind of had a little bit of that Conor McGregor walk when he's out there on the field, like in between snaps. Jamal Adams has attitude. We all have heard dog as a word to describe him. So what did you see from Jamal Adams in his first Titans practice yesterday?
Well, I think for starters, that attitude was on display, like you said. Like it was easy to see the kind of swagger and I would say passion that Jamal Adams kind of approaches every day with. He gets on the field with a swagger and passion. He speaks in press conferences with a passion that I love, and I think the chat loves too, based on what I'm seeing here from Daniel and Pistol Ramsey and people who are really enjoying what they're hearing out of Jamal Adams. Now, the spin zone of that is that when things go bad, like they did at the end of his time in Seattle, sometimes it can be toxic. But for a fresh start in Tennessee, a fresh start with the defensive coordinator that he knows and he's familiar with, all positive from Jamal Adams. I think his impact on this team has been very positive early on and will continue to be that way throughout training camp. On the field, we saw Jamal Adams used how he was used back with the Jets and in his early days of Seattle, where he really thrived. He played some nickel, was used in coverage during some team periods. I thought he looked pretty adequate in coverage. Never really had any issues with him there. Showed good burst. I thought he was pretty fast. He had a clean sack of Will Levis. And of course, it was Jamal Adams coming down from the safety position, blitzing straight through the line, untouched, getting his hands on the quarterback and sticking a hand up saying, "Oh yeah, that was me." So all good stuff from Jamal Adams. I was really impressed early on, and I think the Titans are very clearly going to try and use him into some particular defensive packages, specifically dime, and try and bring him down, use him as a blitzer, and do what Jamal Adams does best for their defense, which is how I would ideally like to see him used as well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious, and this is obviously just off of one practice, but I'm kind of going to watch to see, do they view Elijah Molden and Jamal Adams as a two-piece one-for-one player, like two guys that are fitting one role, and how they do it? Because I don't know who's going to be out there next to Amani Hooker. You saw Adams and Elijah Molden both having reps next to Amani, and then you saw Adams in the nickel, right? Like there were some times where Adams was out there. So it's going to be something like, how do they view Elijah Molden? The whole Quandre Diggs topic comes up because Adams said he talks to him just about every day, and they've known each other for a long time, but he's not pushing for anything. So it's going to be interesting to see who that majority of the snap player is going to be at safety next to Hooker.
Well, they did use in Baltimore last year, 3 safety looks were very, very popular. It was something that they had pretty consistently. You had Marcus Williams, you had Geno
Stone.
Geno Stone, and then obviously you have Kyle Hamilton back there. They shuffled all 3 of them in pretty consistently. Kyle Hamilton was sort of used in that Jamal Adams role where he was blitzing from the nickel spot pretty often there. So I think Denard Wilson has experience with 3 safeties. He knows how to use 3 safeties, especially on passing downs. It's something that I think we'll see a lot of. So maybe if you're in a 1st and 10, 1st and 15, it's an Elijah Molden snap out there, but I don't know if it needs to be as cut and dry as, all right, the Titans are going to use 2 safeties here, and which one is alongside Amani Hooker. I think there's a real possibility, like we saw yesterday, where both Molden and Adams are on the field at the same time. And if they do sign somebody like Quandre Diggs, I think you could see Amani Hooker, Quandre Diggs, and Jamal Adams all on the field at the same time. You know, it doesn't hurt to have the depth, and it doesn't hurt to let Denard Wilson get creative with your personnel.
Yeah, and then you've also got 3 corners you really like in Snead, Awuzie, and Roger McCreary. So, like, how many DBs are you going to play, right? I feel like 5 DBs are going to be on the field in base settings. Well, I think you've got 6 defensive backs that you like to rotate who that nickel DB is. Roger McCreary, I thought, looked really good yesterday too. So now you might have, assuming health for everybody, you might have a good amount of depth out there to mix and match what your looks look like. And hey, if you're thin at inside linebacker, why not play 6 defensive backs if one of them is Jamal Adams, who's basically a linebacker, and an NFL team has asked him to move to linebacker anyway. So I think that's something that can be beneficial overall here. Any other thoughts on Jamal Adams before we move to your guy T Sweat?
Yeah, I mean, just overall, I thought it was a really positive day one. Like, I think, both in his press conference and what we saw on the field, Jamal Adams is off to a good start. And yes, it's day one, but for a guy who's coming in on sort of a prove it deal, I really respect the attitude that Jamal Adams brings into this season. A lot of times you'll see an NFL player who has the track record of Jamal Adams, who has the All Pros and the Pro Bowls and has been at the very top of the league before. And when they're knocked down, they almost don't let themselves believe that that's where they are. Like they have this sense of ego and pride to them of being like, how dare you think that I'm not still the player that I was? I really respected the fact that Jamal Adams handled questions with grace yesterday, even when the questions were, hey, are you are you washed? Did you lose something as a player?
Yeah.
I mean, but he understands why the question is being asked, and he's able to say, no, I don't think so, and I have to go out there and prove it, but I know that I have to go prove it. And I think that's the right mentality to like win the media over, win the fan base over, and keep himself hungry on the field. So really impressive first day for Jamal Adams in my eyes, and not something that I think a lot of veteran players in his position are willing to do.
Yeah, no doubt about that. A to Z Sports here live out here at St. Thomas Sports Park, just outside of the practice facility where we will be in there. Practice starts in about 21 minutes. So let's go ahead and get to this conversation. Yeah, I'm sorry that chat, we haven't been able to get you guys as involved as much as we had hoped to this morning. But we'll continue to mix and match these on-site, on-campus shows to make sure you guys can be as evolved as possible moving forward. But Tandre Sweat was a big topic yesterday. We hadn't seen him in a couple of months. He had rookie minicamp, and then he was gone for the rest of the offseason work. He was back out there, and a lot of interesting drama coming out from the fan base on social media. Sam, I'll let you set the table on that discussion, but first telling everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ. That's where you should turn for your health coverage. They've helped out Zach. They've helped out other A to Z employees and Tennesseans for up to 78 years. My parents flipped over to Farm Bureau Health Plans once their situation changed a couple months ago, helped them save a bunch of money on their health coverage, and they can do the exact same for you, regardless of your situation and the stage of life that you're in, whether it's a family, growing family, or your family's out of the house and you're empty nested with your spouse. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but Farm Bureau Health Plans has you covered right there. And get a quote today by going to use our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
There we go. Today's show powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up using BetMGM and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That means whatever your first wager amount is, if your bet loses, goes back into your account in the form of a bonus bet for a second chance to win. Major League Baseball is up and running here in the second half. It's a good time to place some bets right before the trade deadline. And obviously, because we're standing out here, NFL is around the corner, preseason and regular season action. So go get in on the action with the king of sportsbooks. That's betmgm.com. Austin, you mentioned it briefly, but Tandre Sweat still seems to be a topic of conversation. Fans who feel some type of way about Tandre Sweat, about the draft pick, about the offseason conditioning, about his absence at OTAs. And the rookie didn't necessarily do himself any favors yesterday when he spoke to the media, and he was asked why he missed OTAs.
Out here on the first game.
For my rookie year, I'll say it's a lot different because, I mean, you're on your own, you know what I mean? So really just working out and just trying to get prepared for this.
What held you out during OTAs?
Say that one more time.
What held you out during OTAs that you weren't out here?
Ask your head coach.
What did you have to work?
So that was Tandre Sweat, Austin. He says, hey, you got to ask the head coach if you're curious about why I missed OTAs, which, you know, fair, right? I mean, the Titans coaches held him out of OTAs for precautionary reasons. So I don't necessarily blame Tandre Sweat for not wanting to talk about his injury or for deferring to his head coach. But I guess your thoughts on those comments and kind of all the backlash that is coming Tandre Sweat's way.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. Have a pretty good feeling, and fair to assume that they told Tandre Sweat, hey, you're going to get asked about where you've been. Hey, just tell him to come ask me, right? Like, I'm sure that was the message. I think the delivery there was a little bit blunt, which creates maybe like that whole – we went through this again with Traylon Burks and Mike Vrabel a couple of years ago. Traylon Burks asked the head coach, do you have asthma? Ask the head coach. Ask the head coach. He says, well, I don't know. We're not going to answer it. We're not going to get into that. So then we just went around the rosy on all this stuff and didn't get anything accomplished. So we do get to talk to Brian Callahan after today's practice. So then we do get to ask the head coach, why did Tandre Sweat miss all that time? He told us to ask you. And so will we get a transparent answer? I don't know, because we've gotten a lot of transparency from Brian Callahan and staff to this point. This is the first true test of how much are they going to keep behind the curtain instead of showing it to us. But so outside of that, there was a lot of fans that really reacted strongly to your tweet about the ask the head coach. I think that got blown out of proportion. But let's get the chat involved here today, Sam, because we haven't really had a chance to do that. But I want to ask you guys, what's one word to describe how Titans fans feel about Tandre Sweat entering training camp? What's one word to describe how you feel about Tandre Sweat entering training camp? Sam, I'll let the comments start rolling in here, but I'll let you go ahead and answer that question. What's one word for how you feel about Tandre Sweat entering camp after the offseason of missed opportunities?
It's 2 words. So I'm not gonna use it. I'm not gonna cheat. I'm not gonna cheat.
Yeah. You can't cheat because right now the chat's doing very well with keeping it one word. No hype.
Well, I've seen my word pop up already, which is fine. Fine. We know that I'm a Tandre Sweat guy. I was banging the drum for him to get drafted at 38 by the Titans. He did get drafted at 38 by the Titans. I was over the moon when they selected him, and my attitude has not changed. I still feel fine. Just because he wasn't out there for OTAs does not mean he wasn't going to be healthy for training camp. Brian Callahan told us as much and said, it's a little bit precautionary at this point. He'll be out there for training camp. And guess what? I saw him out there, Austin. I saw him on the practice field. I saw him going through individual period. I saw him working into team period. He participated fully in the practice. He was available. He was healthy. He said that he feels good and feels like he's moving around very well. I feel fine. I don't blame Tandre Sweat for getting a bit of an attitude at times with the way that he's been treated by Titans.
The way he's been treated, okay, I'll stop you there. Like I'm not trying to overreact, but I think Tandre Sweat has created a lot of this himself by not having his weight stay maintained throughout his last year at Texas, where people were reporting that he was 390-ish in the college football playoff games. And then when he doesn't weigh in at the Senior Bowl, the only player in the history of the Senior Bowl to skip the weigh-in, and then he does weigh in at whatever he did, 360 something at the combine. And then then he has the DWI. We go through that situation, right? And then you come back and he says, I'd be a Hall of Famer if I was 355. Well, then why aren't you? What's keeping you from that? If all it is getting to 355 pounds to make you a Hall of Famer, then why aren't you? Then he misses all of the practices with the veterans up until this point. That's the situation. I think, you got to own it, right? If you have a problem maintaining your weight, then you have to be honest with it. Some guys have it the opposite way where they have to keep on weight, right? We went through this with Aaron Brewer for multiple years as this Titan center, and it's going to be a storyline. We went through it with Treylon Burks. It's going to be a storyline. So I think, the attitude, he's right to feel however he wants about the attitude that he's got, but he has to understand and have the reality that your weight has been an issue for a while now, and it hasn't been resolved, and there's no transparent plan that we have to stop asking the questions, right? If you answer the question, we'll probably stop asking. And I think that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I would say Tandre Sweat hasn't done himself any favors, but a big part of his quote unquote attitude probably comes from assumptions that are made about him because of things like his weight from people who very clearly, in the words of my guy Stoney Keeley, who I thought said it very well yesterday on his podcast, said, hey, these are guys who did not watch Texas Longhorns football, because if you have an understanding that Tandre Sweat is not a 3-down player at defensive tackle, you didn't watch enough Longhorns defense. You didn't watch enough of the tape to understand the guy's motor and the way that he moves despite his weight. And so all I think I would ask Titans fans to do and Titans media to do, hey, keep asking the questions, but ask the questions from a fair standpoint. Like, do not overreact at one guy saying, ask the head coach, because by the way, that's a normal response in training camp for a guy who doesn't want to answer injury questions. That's not a Tandre Sweat attitude problem, but it does feel like there are a lot of people out there who are looking for any little thing Tandre Sweat does wrong to jump to an overreaction of why this guy is not going to work. I don't think that is fully fair. I don't think that is, giving him a shot. And so right now he is, as promised, on the practice field, fully participating. And I'm excited to watch him play. So I feel fine. And my attitude towards him and the excitement that I had the day that the Titans drafted Tandre Sweat has not changed at all from draft day until now. Now, get me through training camp and let the product on the field speak for itself. Maybe it does change one way or another, but I feel good and I'm excited to watch him play more.
All right, so one word, Hello Lady says bust, way too early. Edward says interesting. Denise says ready. Xavier was confident.
I like Denise's word. He came in ready, she said, and I agree with
that.
Did
he? Yeah, look, like I talked to some other media members saying he was a little huffing and puffing. Now, look, you can do a lot of conditioning work, and football drills are different. We do know that. Mario says excited. Braden just says neutral. Richie is if. Titans Kyle is torn. Daniel's excited. Uneasy from Pistol Ramsey, sus from Carpet King and Flooring, indifferent from Corey. Patrick is going along with fine. I see a couple fines in there. Rookie from Eric, looking for some other words I haven't seen. Jason and Todd both say hopeful. Rashid says resilient, and Tuto Malone with overreacting. So I'll say my one word because we got to get rolling here. Practice starts in about 10 minutes or less. So my one word is cautious. Because I'm going to be cautious with Tandre Sweat. I think the Titans are going to be cautious with Tandre Sweat. I think I am trying to be cautious in not having an overreaction, understanding that this guy's worth is going to be shown in pads against other opponents and not as much against his teammates. But I also think here's something that I liked a lot yesterday. I saw an 11-on-11 Titans offensive players when Tandre Sweat was on the field next to Jeffrey Simmons on that D-line before they broke the huddle. Offensive player says, hey, let's run it Sweat. Let's run it T-Sweat. Let's go at him. Let's go at him. Let's go at him. And defensive players were barking back at the offensive players, and they ran it to Tandre Sweat. And Tandre Sweat, held his own for a non-padded practice against your teammates on the first day of training camp. So cautious is the word. We need to slow our roll. Because I'm also going to be cautious about Tandre Sweat being able to keep his weight intact. I want to believe it when I see it. If Tandre Sweat can be out there and stay on the plan that the Titans are putting him on. And to go back to your point about people not watching Texas football, Texas had a defensive lineman draft in the first round by the Seattle Seahawks. He'll be here for joint practices in a couple weeks. Tandre Sweat had more snaps than Byron Murphy, who went in the first round, who was also a defensive tackle. Tandre Sweat led that defensive tackle room in snaps over the course of the season last year. So the guy can play. He's very good. He's an Outland Trophy winner. You can Google the Outland Trophy winner results, and the recent history is very good NFL players come from winning that award. So Tandre Sweat has everything he needs to be a successful, very good NFL player. It's can he stay disciplined? I'm going to stay cautious with all this with Tandre Sweat, but day one's in the books. We'll see. I mean, he's got to be out there for day two. He's got to be out there on Saturday. He can't be missing these practices. He's got to stay consistent.
Yeah, I do like your point, too, though, about how Tandre Sweat's impact will be felt more in pads than it will without pads and a training camp practice against his own teammates. And additionally, Austin, similar to Jeffrey Simmons in a way, Tandre Sweat's impact will not always be felt in the sense of, hey, Tandre Sweat had 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss during practice today. He's not going to be a sack guy, or hello, ladies, shade at you for pointing at his sack numbers for why he's dominant. Like, you might maybe feel Tandre Sweat's impact by the fact that Jeffrey Simmons is sacking the quarterback and letting people know that, hey, Big Sweat's taken up 2 offensive linemen to himself, and that frees up other guys to make plays. He's a run stuffer and going to fill run gaps. And so what we see from the Titans defensive line yesterday, Austin, basically that there was no room to run for anybody and that they had stuff bottled up. And I think that is part of Tandre Sweat's impact. So it's not going to be, oh, look at T Sweat dominating the O-line, getting sacks in practice and training camp, like it might be for Arden Key or one of these edge rushers who can actually get home. It's going to be something that once the pads come on, you've got the Seattle Seahawks in town for joint practices. You're on the game in a preseason game, and then you're really able to watch what he's able to do.
Yep. Real quick, we got to get running, but King VC says, lock in, like the show. Please hit that like button for us. That goes such a long way for us. So please hit that like button on Facebook and on YouTube. And one more shout out, Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon. Say hey to Payne Bone for us. No magic bucket, no end of show topics because practice starts in 7 minutes and Sam and I got to scurry over there. So check out Wilson County Hyundai for your next ride. And guys, once again, hit that like button for us. And we will see you tomorrow morning after in our regularly scheduled show before Saturday practice at Nissan Stadium. Content galore coming during and after practice. We'll catch you guys later. Appreciate it as always.